Korg Volca Modular is a fantastic little modular synth. It is battery powered and it has a great or complex oscillator section with a sub-oscillator, wave folding and FM modulation, which is really nice. It comes with two function generators, or as we call it, envelope generators, two filter/VCA combination circuits, and a built-in reverb. Overall, you can get a lot out of this by just using it in itself. It comes with a fantastic sequencer with a lot of different scales and a lot of different ways of running. So it is a lot of modular in and of itself. But how cool would it be if we could add yet another LFO or another envelope or another VCA? Or if we could add a delay? All of these are possible if you patch the Volca Modular with the AE Modular kit, which offers all of these extra things. Now, in terms of cross-patching them, you would think just because they share the same type of little cable that you could just patch them in between themselves. And to an extent that is possible, but the problem is that they run on different types of voltages and therefore it's not always safe to do so. So for instance, the Volca Modular is running the control voltages between 0 and 3.3 volts. So that's safe to go into the AE Modular. But the audio signal is between -3.3 and +3.3 volt. So you wouldn't want to patch an audio signal directly into a filter, let's say, on the AE Modular, because you would route negative voltage into it and it could potentially break. Therefore, you would need some kind of a translation mechanism that lifts the -3.3 up in a way. And the other way around, all the voltages in the AE Modular are between 0 and 5 volt. And you wouldn't want to patch a 5 volt signal into this because you could break that, because it only expects 3.3 volts. So again, you would want to have some kind of attenuator in between that turns down the 5 volts into a safe 3.3 voltage. And you could do all of that with external circuitry or attenuators and all that, but it's much easier by using the VM bridge module from Tangible Waves here. Let's have a look at the VM bridge module of what are the inputs, outputs, and how to use it. First off, you will see the two big jacks here, the 3.5mm jacks, and they are labeled CV to Volca and Sync IO. CV to Volca is a connection of, you put a stereo cable in here that goes directly into the CV in on the Korg Volca, and I will show you that in an example later on. The Sync IO goes both ways. If you put so you can put a stereo or a mono cable in here connected to the sync in or sync out on the Volca Modular, and depending on where you patch it on the Volca, you could either sync your AE Modular system with the modular Volca or the other way around. Now at the top section here, you can see that on the left-hand side, you have the inputs and outputs from the AE Modular side of things. So where you have an arrow pointing to the right, then these are inputs. So you would patch, let's say, here an audio signal into the AU1 onto the AU2, or a control voltage, let's say from an envelope or an LFO into the CV1 and CV2. And then you would send those to the Volca Modular by patching a cable from the AE Modular to the Volca Modular from these sockets here. And you can see the symbols are very similar to how they look like on the Volca Modular. On the other way around, if coming from the Volca Modular, you can patch a control voltage into these two down here, or an audio signal into these two up here. And then you could take those out from the VM bridge. Let's say an audio signal from the Volca Modular would go in here, and then you put a cable from here into your filter, for instance. And same with the control voltage. You patch an envelope, for instance, into here from the Volca Modular, and you can take it out from here, let's say, to drive a VCA or a filter from here. So the top section is going from the AE Modular to the Volca, and the bottom section is coming from the Volca and going to the AE Modular. Now let's look at a few examples of how we can use this to patch. So in this first patch, I want to use the keyboard of the Volca Modular to play my AE Modular. As you can see, the system here is really nice, and I could connect via MIDI a keyboard, or I can play a melody via the sequencer. But for just playing around with a oscillator, I would like to just hit some keys and try them out. And I don't have a keyboard handy, but I have my Volca Modular here. So I want to play the oscillator, for instance, through the WASP filter from the keyboard on the Volca Modular. So let's set this up. The first thing we have to do always when we cross-patch between the two is to give them a common ground. And you achieve a common ground by, for instance, taking the, let's say, the sync output from the Volca Modular and connect it with the sync I/O on the AE Modular. So this cable here is giving the two systems a common ground, and you need this to cross-patch, otherwise bad things may happen. The next thing I want to do is I want to take the pitch output of the Volca Modular, which I get from this output here, and I would want to drive the CV on my oscillator on the AE Modular from here. So to do that, I take a cable from here, put it into the Volca Modular section on my VM bridge on the input, and then I take that output here, the CV out, and put it into the CV1 on my oscillator here. So now I get the pitch from the Volca going into the input section on the VM bridge, and from the AE Modular output section going into the CV1 on the oscillator. Then I'm taking the output of the oscillator through my WASP filter, and from the WASP filter going to a VCA, for instance, and from the VCA I'm taking it into my amplifier to listen to it. And now I need as we know in the basic patch, I need something to open the VCA here, so I'm using an envelope for that. This one here, and I need to activate the envelope somehow, and to do that again I want to do this from the gate signal on the Volca Modular. So I take the gate signal out here, put it into the VM bridge, and from the VM bridge I take it to the envelope gate, and now I can play. As you can see here, the LED is lighting up. Now I can play the AE Modular through the keyboard here. Let's have a listen to that. So now you can hear that if I press a key here, that you can hear the sound from the AE Modular. And when I change the WASP filter, so that's great. I now have a keyboard that I can play with. Now the cool thing is that not just can I play the keyboard, but I can now also use the sequencer to drive my AE Modular. Let's listen to that. So here I have a sequence running, and this is coming from the Volca Modular, driving the sequencer, driving the oscillator here. Then of course I can do all the usual things. Okay, so this was an example of playing the AE Modular from the keyboard of the sequencer of the Volca Modular. So in this demo, I want to get the output of my oscillator through the WASP filter and from the WASP filter back into the Volca Modular. So let's do that. The first thing is I want to take the output of my complex oscillator here and put it into the AE Modular, and I'm going through the VM bridge here. So I'm taking that into the audio input here because it's an audio signal. I don't want to put an audio signal directly into my WASP filter because it goes from -3 volts to +3 volts, and I don't want to have negative voltage in my WASP filter. Now from there, I take the audio output and I put that into my WASP filter here. Now we don't hear anything, so I want to take the output of my WASP filter and I can listen to it straight away on my AE Modular here. So that's really cool. So we can get the output of the complex oscillator here and get it through the WASP filter into my AE and listen to it from here. That's really cool. But we now want to have an envelope. So every time I press a button here, I want the WASP filter to open and close. So just like we did the last time, we take the gate output from this and we put this into the VM bridge, into the gate section. And from the gate section, I put that into the gate of my envelope here at the top from the AE Modular. And I can also play a sequence. Perfect. So now I have a complex oscillator here that I can take through the WASP filter and play it this way. So the next thing I want to do is I want to get the output from the AE Modular back into my Volca so I can use the reverb here. And then going from here back into the AE Modular so that I can listen it again. So I take the output of my VCA and I put it into the input here. And then I take that and put it into the space out on the Volca. And then coming back from the space out, back into the audio input here on my VM bridge, and from the VM bridge into the mixer. What I get now is I get the output of the VCA coming into the Volca, into the space out input, and from there back into, via the VM bridge, into my mixer. And now we have a fairly complex cross-patching going on here between the oscillator on the Volca, the filter, the envelope, the VCA, everything going back across and forth, and it all works beautifully. And what I've added here is I've either added a really nice complex oscillator to my AE Modular to do things, or whether I've added a WASP filter to my Volca Modular. I think it doesn't make any difference anymore. They are now one system. And this is achieved through the VM bridge module here, which delivers safe conversions between the different voltages going in and out of the two systems. So now I want to send the signal from my sequencer on the AE Modular to my Volca, because the sequencer is a very nice immediate feedback for playing sequences, and I just want to use that and see how that all works. And I also want to take the output or the audio signal from the Volca back into my AE Modular so I can mangle it with a delay. So that's the next idea. So to get pitch and gate from the AE Modular to the Volca, we can use the CV to Volca output here. So I put a stereo cable into this jack and then the other end into the CV in on the Volca. And then I can patch the pitch from this end output here into the pitch on my oscillator. So that goes into here. And then I can take the gate, which is here at the top, and send this to my envelope or function generator. So I use this one here. So now I just need to patch a CV and gate up here. And this is where this model, unfortunately, is a little bit wrongly marked. So it says 1 volt per octave. This is actually where the gate should go. Where it says CV, this is where the pitch goes. So not sure if this is a bit of a mistake here, and this was a very, very early module. It might have changed, or maybe in the first batch it will be like this. But definitely for me, the first one is the gate and the second one is the pitch. So I'm putting the first one into the gate on my sequencer, and I'm putting the second one into the CV raw on my sequencer. Now the sequencer needs to get a clock, and for that I'm using the sync, because I'm sending the sync out from the Volca to my AE. So I take the sync output on the VM bridge and I'm putting this into the clock here. So now I want to get the output of the Volca, the audio output, and I'm taking it straight from the space out. And I'm taking that from the space out straight into my VM bridge here to the audio input. Again, I don't want to put it straight into my mixer because it contains negative voltages, We don't want negative voltages in our system. So now I'm taking the output here and putting that into my mixer. And now we should already hear something. We don't hear anything because, beginner mistake, I have to patch the output of my mixer with my amplifier. So let's listen to that. Okay. Here we go, we can hear something. Okay, so we can hear now the sequencer is driving beautifully the pitch and the gate. Remember that you have the gate and the very first input here and the pitch on the second input, and then you take the pitch from where you have the little note sign here on the Volca and the gate from the other where you have the bubble at the top. And the gate goes into my input on the function generator and the pitch goes into the input on the oscillator. So now I promised I wanted to put this into the delay, so instead of taking the space out, I'm going from my function generator out, from my LPG output, and instead of going directly into the mixer, I'm taking this into my delay, and from the delay, I'm going into the mixer. And now, let's take the clock a little bit down. Okay, here we have it. A nice interaction between the AE Modular and the Volca using the sequencer and the delay, and all being done through the VM bridge. And here we are using the CV to Volca and the sync IO and the delay on the way back. So this concludes the few examples, but you could see there's some really cool interactions that you can use between the Volca and the AE Modular, where the AE Modular supports the Volca with filters, sequences, delays, and obviously all the other things that are available in the AE Modular palette of modules. So I hope you enjoyed this, and please let me know if you have any questions about the VM bridge or about the AE Modular or the Volca Modular as well. And hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment in the section below, and yeah, let me know your creations and post it on the forum. I would love to see more Volca Modular and AE Modular interactions on YouTube. Okay, have a great day and keep patching.